best marketing is people seeing that it's worked already.
If you have that up for a week and no one's signing up for anything, well, that's a sign to you that this isn't going to work. Those sources for ads really only start giving you significant returns in most cases when you're spending like the thousands of dollars. Let's kind of just talk about things that are going to cost money for this.
For sure.
So the first thing that's going to cost money is your venue. Next thing that's going to cost money potentially, I'm going to say promotion. Promotion does not have to cost money, but it can, depending on how you're going about it. Um, if you're running advertisements, I'll be honest, like social media, some people, what they want to do, they want to run ads on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, YouTube. I'll be honest, those sources for ads really only start giving you significant returns in most cases when you're spending like the thousands of dollars. So this is your first event. Honestly, I really couldn't push you to be considering like a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad or things like that, because I don't think you're going to get your money worth. I'll be honest. You can always try it, prove me wrong. Happily prove me wrong, but I think there's better ways if you're just getting started to be considering. Now, if you do have the budget, go for it. Yeah, I mean, if you can spend $1,000 to $5,000 on promotion, you can get some pretty nice results. But again, it gets to be expensive. The other thing I want to be considering for your course as well is who's the facilitator. I know that we think of, we're trying to promote our own work and things like that. However, you may not be the best facilitator for what you want to do, or maybe you want to be part of facilitation, but you also know maybe there's a bigger, you want to have that draw. You want to bring in that person. When people see their name, they're going to be even more enticed to take part. Cool.
Yeah.
That person's going to cost money, especially because this is your course. If you're doing like a recording of it or things like that, so it's going to be living in kind of after the course is already finished, and you want to make it like a video course, things like that. This is going to cost you. You're going to pay for their expertise, but you're doing that for a reason, because that can also lend you credibility too, because they're like, oh wow, you were able to bring in this person. So that there is kind of a mutual aspect going on.
Because you're kind of doing the thing where like you're sharing platforms, and so a lot of times it's like you're pulling in the people that are going to be more inclined, or going to be somewhat inclined to want to either be interested in what you're doing right now, or maybe interested in what you're doing in the future. So yeah, bringing in somebody else as a facilitator, or just in general that you can promote as being connected to our part of this event, it has a lot of different benefits. I would say maybe there's some drawbacks somewhere in there, but some of the like really clear benefits are, naturally you have this content where you can, consistently be kind of advertising somewhat to their audience. And then, now you have this, just like you said, this added kind of credibility.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real thing. People see who you're able to connect with. Connections are really important. If you're doing it yourself, obviously it's going to be cheaper. The other thing too, because they're for facilitators, they don't necessarily have to be there for the entire thing. You may only bring them in for like a 15-minute, 20-minute section. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to do the whole thing. But just another point to consider. I would say in terms of cost, these are probably going to be your heaviest ones. You do also want to consider the materials you need. Okay. For instance, in terms of poetry, most of the courses I do are more related to just my teaching business, but we've done poetry workshops before. For instance, we had Quatrain, where basically I brought in speakers, including Matthias. We had to pay speaker fees, we had to pay venue fees, material fees. Fortunately, I already had most of the materials. We had recordings, I already had the cameras, I already had the microphones. We didn't really need a whole lot of materials beyond that. If you are considering recording, which I strongly do recommend, is you want to make sure that you have cameras, mics, things like that. If you're doing this, I strongly recommend getting it on video, because then you can use that to promote the course later when you make it a video course, and also kind of show people just what you're doing. This is
Yeah.
great things that you could be posting on, for instance, like social media and things like that, to be pushing yourself.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the like everything should be building up, right? So there shouldn't be something that you've done that's a really big event, or that's something that you believe that put a lot of work into, that you can't use in multiple different ways really for forever. You know what I mean? Like, in 3 years, if you really want to showcase, hey man, when we started doing this is what we were doing, this was our very first, because you don't know what each workshop that you do can really kind of develop into, because maybe this is the workshop that people are really, really gravitating towards. And so now, this is the one that you maybe push some energy into. And like, I know, Jeff, a lot about, naturally, if you find something that works, okay, now we're going to put a little bit more muscle into kind of the things that work. So really making sure that you kind of walk away from events with as much content as possible. That way you can be as versatile as possible with how you promote what you put out there. Because as good as a flyer and and things like that are, the kind of the best marketing is people seeing that it's worked already. People seeing that, oh, people come to this and they've enjoyed it. Not only did they enjoy it, they learned something from it. Oh, we have video. This is kind of how it goes. This is kind of what's happening here. Oh, like, I understand that. And like, kind of, it sells them a lot more.
You have to be very careful with events, because events on their own, it's very easy to lose money on events. Most events are not actually making tons and tons of money. Okay, but that's not necessarily the goal of an event. Events, they can, they certainly can, but a lot of times that's not the primary goal of an event. Another little thing that I would add into is, in terms of the materials, I would also say, like, I don't know, like freebies or merch. For instance, if you have a book or something like that, this may be a good opportunity to, you know, give attendees a book. Even if it's a small collection, you have a chapbook, give them the chapbook. Just something like that. Just gets your own work into the hands of other people. Even if the workshop itself isn't, you know, centered around your book. It's just like, it just, again, starts kind of building you up a little bit. In fact, one of our workshops that we did, we had a self-published author named Dante. Dante came in. What did he do at the end of his workshop? Everyone got a free book. Everyone
I
got a
already
free
had
book.
his book too, and I still took a free one.
But that's how he wants you to take it, though. Because in some ways that's even better. Because what do people tend to do if they have multiple copies? They tend to get that book to someone.
Give it away.
They give it away. So you're just getting, like, again, some free exposure. Once you have all this down, I would say the next step in a lot of ways is we need to start gauging interest. So we already kind of have an idea of what we want to do, but we don't actually know yet if people are down for this. We think they might be. We think there's a need, but we're not necessarily sure. So the next thing that I would really recommend doing is I would start doing some market research. How do we conduct the market research? There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can see what are some offerings that other people are already doing. So maybe someone's already kind of doing this and this seems to be successful. So that would suggest that, oh, well, maybe there is a need for this. So then you can kind of decide on your own unique twist. Okay. Other things you can do, again, I know social media always gets a bad rap, but it's really helpful for things like this. If you make a post, if you made a post to say, hey guys, I'm thinking about organizing this course, making a series of posts, trying on your platforms, emailing some people, talk to your friends, talk to people you think would be interested, sending out some messages directly and just asking people, hey, is this something that you think you'd be interested in? And if you're hearing crickets or no one's responding, then don't just like run through and still do it anyways, because you're going to be upset with the result and everyone else is as well. Like, no one's going to come, and that's not your goal. So I would say keep tweaking until you feel like you're getting a response that's like, I think this might actually work. Now,
Yeah.
the viable number that's going to determine if you think this is going to work is also dependent on your cost. If this is an event that you can run for $50, you feel, well, then the stakes are much lower for you, and you can get by with potentially even just a couple, like 2 or 3 attendees, versus if you're like, man, if I don't know anything about recording, so I want to hire a videographer. I want to create a workbook. The venue I want is sweet, but it costs $200 an hour. You're going to need $1,000 probably to cover your costs, um, especially if you're bringing in speakers. Okay. Um, to give an example, I ran a poetry residency. Um, I did it at a loss. I knew it was gonna be a loss, but that's fine because the goal, it's an investment, you know. So the poetry residency that we ran, um, we took submission fees and things like that. Um, but we had to book the Airbnb to host it. I guaranteed a stipend for people. Um, the venue where we did the reading, fortunately, to Tim from Throwaway, shout out to Tim. Greatly appreciate
Shout
you,
out
sir.
to
It's very open to the things that we do for the poetry scene. So we let us use the venue for free, but all the other costs and things like that, that's $500. We were able to recoup some of that. But I went in expecting that to be a loss. And there's ways I could have done it so that way it would have been less, but for the experience I wanted for where we are right now, I was like, I'll eat it myself. I think it's worth it. Once you've done your market research and you're like, I think this is viable. I think this is something worth pursuing. Um, Now you got to start estimating how many people are actually going to turn up to this thing. Because the market research may suggest something's going to work, but that still doesn't guarantee it's going to work. So we need to start getting an idea of how many people can we actually expect to have. And you might be like, but how am I going to even know how many people are going to come? How do I predict that? you know, um, you can't. It's hard to get an exact number, but there are some strategies. I want to talk about some promotion strategies that we've done in the past that have worked really well for us that may work for you too. So one strategy that we've done, I'm going to talk about um, our poetry residency. So I'm going to talk about like predicting. Let's go call this predicting attendance, and then kind of talk about. So one of the ways that I started predicting attendance, for instance, for the residency. So a couple of things. Firstly, I put out feelers about the residency to gauge interest. The second thing I did was I created a website, a landing page where people would go to. On the landing page, I included an online whiteboard. And I said, hey, if you're interested in getting information about when we open for our residency, and you want to get the highlights, because basically I forget, the people who signed up first, like they got some benefit. So if I was like, if you want to be notified of that, then what you can do is go to our landing page and write down your social media handle of choice on the whiteboard. And on the whiteboard, everyone started writing down their handles. And the benefit of this, the reason why we use the whiteboard is because when people write down their handles, as they're writing down, they're looking at all the other handles of other people who've also expressed interest. So not only are you voicing that you want info, but you're also seeing, oh wow, there's other people that are also interested too. Okay. Um, that initial phase is really, really important, because if you have that up for a week and no one's signing up for anything, well, that's a sign to you that this isn't going to work. Okay. But if a couple people start signing up, that encourages other people to do it more. Okay. We've talked
for
about this
sure.
before. If you have, it's a thing. If you have 2 restaurants and one restaurant has a line out the door and the other restaurant, no one's inside, and someone's passing by and they're trying to decide where to eat, the allure of that first restaurant is going to be much more enticing than the empty restaurant. Okay, people are
Yeah.
drawn to what things other people like. It creates tension. You want to make sure, once you get an idea of how many people are starting to sign up, okay, we're looking for signals. We're looking for people actively saying that they want in. When I say active, it's not just enough to like just like the post. No, we're looking for people who are commenting, people who are requesting you for info, people who are leaving you their contact info to be notified, people who maybe you make, for instance, like a Facebook group. Um, that's one thing we've done. So, for instance, for Pep and Poets, we have a monthly group that meets on first Sundays. It's actually this week. I have to put out some posts for that.
Oh yeah.
For people who want in on that, we made a Facebook group. We're like, hey, if you want to be in, join this Facebook group. This is where we send in notifications. You can do it on WhatsApp. For instance, we've done that as well. So, for instance, I had a short program that's called 5-Day Poet Authority. We talked about course, kind of like what's things we're talking about now. We talked about course creation. But I say, hey, if you want in, you have to join this WhatsApp group. You know, and the first couple people who joined were able to access that. You want to have something, you're creating something that lets people show that they're interested while also seeing that other people are interested too. Once you have that, whether it's again like a Facebook group, you could even just have like post something on Instagram and say, hey, if you're interested, leave a comment that says a specific word. You could create a hashtag. You could do whatever. There's different ways you can do it. Once you have an idea of people that are saying this, the general guideline you want to think is that the number of seats you have is generally going to be equal to 5 times, or it's basically going to be 1/5, I should say. 1/5 of people expressing interest. It's usually 1/5 to 1/10. You tend to go conservative because you don't want to be disappointed. You want to be like, oh man, I'm going to plan for 100 seats and then 5 people show up. It's going to put you in a horrible situation. Guarantee you.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is something that's going to be a lot more predictable.
Now I think one of the things that I mean, we ran an open mic, which we're going to be getting back to soon. But there's also like other open mics that I've been a part of. And this is also something we thought we think about, even when I'm thinking about Seventh Draft. We used to have it at $2 Radio headquarters. Our first Seventh Draft that we had at $2 Radio headquarters was huge. It was like kind of standing room only. And I think one of the things that we were able to capitalize on is just, kind of we were at another venue before. And so kind of coming into this venue kind of gave us the kind of like through that pathway to be able to kind of have a kind of a larger audience. And then we had kind of like a 2-month, not hiatus, but I think it was like during the holidays. So when we came back, we kind of put out there that we were going to be coming back, and we kind of planned for kind of the same kind of same audience. And this is also kind of when it goes in, like, we could also kind of talk about, maintaining interest even when you're out of season, you know what I mean? Kind of making sure that the ball's rolling, because I don't think that was something that we necessarily did incredibly well. But again, yeah. So we kind of put out there when we're getting ready to start our season back up that, hey, we're gonna be back. We're gonna be at 2 Hour Radio. You know what I'm saying? Who's all coming? And we were like super excited to have it kind of like, but we kind of did the opposite, which is kind of the problem, right? So we only like 10, 15 people kind of like were on Instagram. We were doing like both Instagram and Facebook. And they were just like, yeah, we can't wait for Seventh Drafts. And so we essentially planned for like 50 people coming.
Oh wow.
And I think like 20 people came, which is, it kind of just, and again, it was, that's fine, but it's just to say that I think that one of the things that you want to kind of think about is the optics for the people that are there even, right? Because so it would feel way different if 5 or 10 people came and you have a layout that looks like you're supposed to have 50 people. So now those 5 people are like, man, they might have enjoyed this, but man, where is everybody? But I'm like, if you plan accordingly, if you plan for the size of the people that are going to be there, or you've kind of used this algorithm to plan for it not like it shows, okay, this is done with a purpose, because it's like I'm kind of with these people, and these are all the people that came, and I'm not in this huge space. I'm in this venue that's kind of built for this group of people, so it's kind of done with some intention.
It is better for you to have too little space than not than like way too much. So like for instance, it's okay to turn people away. That's okay. I know we don't like it, but it's actually okay. It works because that lets people know that what you're doing is something that people are finding value in.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh wow, I don't want to miss out next time because last time I tried to go here, I couldn't even get through the door."
People love exclusivity, man. They love the
Mhm.
idea that, man, because I mean, even think about for the people that made it in. Now they're like, man, I responded quick enough and in just enough
Yeah,
time to be able to get in on this thing. And then now they're even thinking, well, if I want to do this again the next time it's around, I got to keep my eyes peeled
I got to be
for this.
there.
So
Yeah.
it kind of works. It works on both ends. It works on for the people that made it and for the people that missed it.
And also for the people that are there, it may be, they might originally be like, well, I'm going to leave early because I'm not enjoying this. But then if they see, oh, there's a line out the door to this thing. Oh, maybe I should
Oh yeah.
stay. It makes them more invested. In fact, that thought doesn't even cross their mind because subconsciously they're like, oh, wow, like I want to be here because everyone else wants to be here. So they don't even think
Yeah.
about that. Um, so it's okay. Going back to these promotion strategies, if you realize, if 10 people are saying that they really want in, I'm planning a super small workshop for about 2 to 3 people. Okay. If 10 people tell me that they're planning on attending, I am planning for this event to be for about 2 to 3 people. Okay. Because I don't want to be disappointed. They don't want to be disappointed. And this is what's going to keep things more realistic. If more people show up, I'm turning them away. I'm saying sorry. Like, you should have said sooner.
Yeah.
It's like, for instance, if you're having a ticketed event. So what I personally would do, if you have this event, you're planning on doing this. Let's say maybe 45 people say they're interested. And again, like actively saying you're interested, like you brought them into a Facebook group, you brought them into a WhatsApp group, you brought them into something where they had to like actively become a member. 45 people say you're interested. I'm planning personally. For about I'm planning about 5 to 10 seats. Yeah, whatever, something in that range. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm going to announce to everyone I have 5. Be specific. You make a decision. Are you going to do 5? Or are you going to do 10? Okay. Personally, I would probably lean more conservative. I might say 6. I have 6 seats. 45 people say they want to come. Cool. I don't care about the number. I don't care. If 100 people do it, cool. If 20 people do it, cool. I don't care. I want to have the best event for the amount of interest I'm getting. Okay. Because I don't
Yeah.
want to be disappointed about the numbers. Okay. I'm honest about that. Okay. And I'm going to base it on the numbers I'm getting. Okay. So 45 people say they're interested. I'm planning for 5 to 10 seats, and I'm happy with that. I have 6 seats. One thing I did so I mentioned that we're doing like a chat book pilot program right now. One thing I did was all the people who are interested, they're very similar thing to this. I said, hey, check your emails at 5 o'clock p.m. tomorrow, because at 5 o'clock p.m. tomorrow, I am opening up so you can reserve your seats. At 5 p.m. tomorrow, reservations are open so you can claim your spot. Okay. So then 5 p.m. the next day happened. I opened up. I needed for the pilot. The pilot's very small. I needed 4 poets. Okay. We had
Yeah.
more than that applying, but I just needed 4 of them. Okay. So 5 p.m. comes out. I email everyone who expressed interest. I said, hey, spots are open. I had all 4 spots claimed by 5:02.
There
Because
you
the people
go.
who are active and claiming their seats, they're waiting for that email to come. They were warned. Um, they got it. It took me
Yeah.
2 minutes to fill my event. Granted, this is a small
And
event, but the fundamentals go through no matter what size event you're doing. Okay.
Yeah, in the growth trajectory is kind of like it you're not really like this is good, but naturally for the rest of the time that you're holding the event, you're not trying to only have 4 or 5 seats open, right?
Right.
So you're
No.
thinking, you're really thinking about, what can this event look like 2 3 years down the line. And I think
Hmm.
that so many times people are thinking about 2 or 3 years down the line, but they want that to be happening now, so they'll open it
Right.
up and they'll say whoever could come in can just come in. So they're not planning like that, so they're
Hmm.
not creating an exclusivity around their product. They're
Hmm.
just creating an inclusiveness around their product,
Hmm.
because and they believe inclusion around their product makes it desirable. But I'm like, man, like that take because if you could just have this no matter when you really want it, it's not,
Hmm.
it's valuable. Okay, maybe, but it's like if something is truly that valuable, then it can't be available. It can't be
Right.
like readily available in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.